अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमान अभय चरणार इसका अनंत कोटि वैष्णव नामाचार्य शिल हरिदास ठाकुर प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन श्री श्री गौरनाथ ग्रंथराज भागवतम की जय समवेत भक्त गौर प्रेमानंदी all glories to that all glories to that all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Charu Swami Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 9th chapter. The passing away of Bhishma Dev, text 34. Yudhi Turaga Rajo Vidhumra Vishwa Kacha Lulita Shamvari Alamritashe Mama Nishita Sharai Vividdhamana Tvachi Vilasa Kavache Astu Krishna Atma Yudhi Turago Rajo Vidhumra Vishwa Kacho Lulita Samvarya Alamkritase Mamo Nishita Sharai Vividdhamana Tvachi Vilasat Kavachestu Krishnatma Yudhi Turago Rajo Vidhumra Vishwa Kacho Lulita Samvarya Alamkritase Mamo Nishita Sharai Vividdhamana Tvachi Vilasat Kavachestu Krishnayatma. On the battlefield, Turaga, horses, Rajaha, dust, Vidhumra, turn and ashen color, Vishwa, waving, Kacha, hair, Lulita, scattered, Shamavari, perspiration, Alamkrita, decorated with, Ase, unto the face, Mamo, mine, Nishita, sharp, Shadari, by the arrows, Bibhiddhamana, pierced by, Twachi, in the skin, Vilasat, enjoying pleasure, Kavache, protecting armor, Astu, let there be, Krishna, unto Sri Krishna, Atma, mind. Translation by the Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. On the battlefield where Sri Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, the flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ashen due to the dust raised by the hoofs of the horses. And because of his labor, beads of sweat weighted his face. All these decorations intensified by the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go unto Sri Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace Prabhupada. Okay, please repeat after. On the battle, the Lord is the absolute form of eternity, bliss and knowledge. As such, transcendental loving service to the Lord in one of the 5 principal relations, namely Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya, that is neutrality, servitorship, fraternity, filial affection and conjugal love, is graciously accepted by the Lord when offered to the Lord in genuine love and affection. Sri Krishna is the great devotee of the Lord in the relation of servitorship. Thus, his throwing of sharp arrows at the transcendental body of the Lord is as good as the worship of another devotee who throws soft roses of love. It appears that Vishwadev is repenting the actions he committed against the person of the Lord. But factually, the Lord's body was not at all pained due to his transcendental existence. His body is not matter. Both he himself and his body are complete spiritual identity. Spirit is never pierced, burnt, dried, moistened, etc. This is vividly explained in the Bhagavad Gita. So also it is stated in the Skanda Purana. It is said there that spirit is always uncontaminated and indestructible. It cannot be distressed, nor can it be dried up. When Lord Vishnu in his incarnation appears before us, he seems to be like one of the conditioned souls, materially engaged, just to bewilder the asuras or the non-believers, who are always alert to kill the Lord, even from the very beginning of his appearance. Kamsa wanted to kill Krishna, and Ravana wanted to kill Rama, because foolishly they were unaware of the fact that the Lord is never killed, for the spirit is never annihilated. Therefore, Bhishma Dev's piercing of the body of Lord Krishna is a sort of bewildering problem for the non-devotee atheist. But those who are devotees are liberated souls and are not bewildered. Bhishma Dev appreciated the all-merciful attitude of the Lord because he did not leave Arjuna alone. Although he was disturbed by the sharpened arrows of Bhishma Dev, nor was he reluctant to come before Bhishma's deathbed, even though he was ill-treated by him on the battlefield. Bhishma's repentance and the Lord's merciful attitude are both unique in this picture. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, a great Acharya and devotee in the humor of conjugal love with the Lord, remarks very saliently in this regard. He says that the wounds created on the body of the Lord by the sharpened arrows of Vishmadev were as pleasing to the Lord as the biting of a fiancé who bites the body of the Lord directed by a strong sense of sex desire. Such biting by the opposite sex is never taken as a sign of enmity, even if there is a wound on the body. Therefore, the fighting as an exchange of transcendental pleasure between the Lord and his pure devotee Sri Vishmadev was not at all mundane. Besides that, since the Lord's body and the Lord are identical, there was no possibility of wounds in the absolute body. The apparent wounds caused by the sharpened arrows are misleading to the common man, but one who has a little absolute knowledge can understand the transcendental exchange in the chivalrous relationship. The Lord was perfectly happy with the wounds caused by the sharpened arrows of Vishmadev. The word Vibhittamana is significant because the Lord's skin is not different from the Lord. Because our skin is different from our soul, in our case the word Vibhittamana or being bruised and cut would have been quite suitable. Transcendental bliss is of different varieties, and the variety of activities in the mundane world is but perverted reflection of the transcendental bliss. Because everything in the mundane world is qualitatively mundane, it is full of inebrities, whereas in the absolute realm, because everything is of the same absolute nature, there are varieties of enjoyment without inebriety. The Lord enjoyed the wounds created by his great devotee Bhishmadev, and because Bhishmadev is a devotee in the chivalrous relation, he fixes up his mind on Krishna in that wounded condition. So Bhishmadev is offering his prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is one of the beautiful prayers. Yudhi Tudavarajo Vidhunga Vishya Kachalulitu Shamavar Jalam Ritasre Mamo Nishita Sharvai Vidhittamana Tvachi Vilasat Kavachestu Krishnayata. It's a very wonderful situation. Vishmadev is lying on a bed of the grandsire who was one of the most exalted personalities, the son of an illustrious king, Shantanu, and mother Ganga. Ganga Devi herself is Vishnu's mother. And Bhishmadev was brought up in the heavenly planet. Right after his birth, Mother Ganga left Shantanu and took Bhishma to the heavenly planet. There Bhishmadev studied under the guidance of Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the universe. One of the most exalted, most learned personalities, one of the wisest of the persons. And then he was taught the art of using Vedas by Parashurama, an incarnation of the Supreme Personality. Therefore, Vishmadev had a very clear understanding from the very beginning of his life who Krishna was. He was a devotee from the very beginning of his life. He was brought up in the heavenly planet. In the heavenly planet, everyone 16 years old, Mother Ganges returned to his father, Shantanu. And Vishnudev had such a brilliant character. He took a vow of lifelong service. And that also was just for the sake of his father. He wanted to fulfill the desire of his father. And here we can see, like, when Jajati, King Jajati, was cursed by Shukracharya that he will become old. Jaragrasta, he will become afflicted by old age. And Jajati he became very perturbed because he knew that, or rather he considered that his heart was full of desire for sense gratification. Whereas his body will not be able to provide him the facility to have sense gratification. So he requested all his children, please take my old age. That was the condition that Shukracharya gave. If any of your sons accepts your old age, then you can go back to your youth. And he asked all his sons. He first asked the eldest one. He refused. So in this way, one after another, all his sons refused. Jadu, Tulvasu, and then finally Guru accepted old age, youngest. So here we see the difference, although they are also very exalted personalities. From this Jadu, the Jadu dynasty appeared, in which dynasty? Krishna, Chandravamsa. So the father was requesting that please take my youth, take my old age and give me your youth in exchange. Because I have so many desires. I have so many desires for sense gratification. But most of his sons refused. Whereas Vishnudev, when he got to know that his father wanted to marry one very beautiful lady, a daughter of the king of fishermen. So he became when he got to know that his father was dead. But why his father refused? Because Satyavati's father made a condition that, look, if you want to marry my daughter, then you have to make a condition, you have to take a vow that her son will become the successor to the throne. So Shantanu couldn't accept that. He said, well, my son, I already have another son. And that son already has been coronated to the throne as a crown prince. So he'll be the successor to the throne. But because he had this desire to marry this girl, and that desire was unfulfilled, Shantanu was very much afflicted by distress. So Bhishma noticed that his father was looking uneasy. He was extremely morose and absent-minded. So Bhishma wondered what happened. But Shantanu was not telling what happened. So Bhishma then asked the chariot driver what happened. Because the chariot driver was there, so he knew what actually happened. So chariot driver described all that happened. So Bhishma said, okay, take me to the place. So Bhishma went to Dhivaraj, the king of the fishermen. And when he got to know that his father was refused because, or his father declined to accept the condition because of Bhishma. So Bhishma said, okay, I will tell him Bhishma my right. So here we see such a noble character, such a noble person. For the sake of his father's pleasure, in order to please his father, or in order to fulfill his father's desire, he relinquished his right of control. So, okay, I will not accept. I want to be your son, your daughter's son, your grandson will become the king. But this personality was so cunning. King of the fishermen, father of Satyavati. Actually, she was the foster father. That he suggested that, okay, fine, you don't want to become the king. That's very nice. But what about your children? There will be a conflict in the family. Your children will want to have a share because they will be older in age. And it is the custom in the Vedic culture that the eldest son in the family becomes, or rather inherits properties. And for a king, the eldest son in the family becomes the king. That was also a problem with, that was also a problem with Dhritarashtra's children and Pandu's children. Dhritarashtra was the elder brother, elder than Pandu. And although Dhritarashtra couldn't become a king because he was blind, but he was harboring a desire that maybe his son would become the king because his son would be older. But finally, when the children were born, two children, the son of Pandu was born out of Kunti. Before Dhritarashtra's son, Gandhari was carrying the womb for a long time. The womb just to come up. The child will be born. So another child was born. But his son also became king. So Yudhishthira Maharaj became the natural successor to the throne. And that is how all this trouble started. In the family. So Yudhishthira Maharaj was the original king, the natural successor to the throne, but Duryodhana made all kinds of dubious arrangements and he became king. And that was finally there was this battle. So, to go back to Bhishma Dev was, he was naturally much elder, much older than, would naturally be much older than Satyavati's children. And Bhishma Dev would get married. If he got married, then his son was older than Satyavati's children. So he had, Dhrivaraj had this consideration at the back of his mind that his sons, and although due to Bhishma Dev's noble gesture, he is foregoing his right to own the kingdom. But what about his children? They will start to fight succession. So then Bhishma Dev said, okay, that is, I won't get married. So we can see what a noble person, just for the sake of his father's pleasure, he accepted, he took took a vow of lifelong celibacy. And he maintained that vow. There have been many, many trials and tribulations. There have been many tests. And we can see, like Mahaprabhu actually describes, that how the destiny prevails, how fate draws, or how the fate directs the course of one's life. As they say, man proposes, God disposes. We may have our own plans, but eventually everything is in Krishna's hands. In the material nature, we may make so many plans, but ultimately things will happen according to one's own karmic reactions. Prakriti kriyamanam gunai karmani. In the material nature, everything happens according to the guna karma. One may make, like here, the Devaraj secured the possibility so wonderfully. It was actually a foolproof arrangement for him. His grandson will become the king, and he made arrangements that his grandson's children also will become the king, will continue to be the king unhindered. But the stroke of destiny took care of both his sons. Satyavati gave birth to two sons, Chitrangada and Vichitrabirja, and both the sons died. And there was no successor to the throne. And finally Satyavati requested Bhishma to procreate in the womb of the wives of Vichitrabirja. Vichitrabirja had two wives, Ambika and Valika, two princes of Kashiraj. But Bhishma declined. He said, look, I took a vow of life and celibacy. Break that vow. Satyavati was pleading, look, our whole family line will be destroyed. Now here we can see, her father wanted to make such an arrangement that her grandson, her son and her grandson will continue to be the successor to the throne. And because in order to secure that, Bhishma was forced to take a vow of lifelong celibacy. And now the whole family line is going to be finished. Bhishma, and she was pleading, Bhishma, you do that. You procreate the children in the womb of these two girls, two of your sisters-in-law. And it's a very culture, it's a very custom that it is authorized by scripture that when one takes to, when the brother dies without any children, then the brother-in-law of, that means the brother of the departed husband, can procreate in the womb of his wife. That is called Devarena Sutta. Deva means brother-in-law. And Devarena by the brother-in-law. Sutta means children. Utpatti means procreation. The procreation by the brother-in-law is allowed, authorized by the scripture, but that is not in other ages it was allowed, but in the age of Kali that is not. 5 things are forbidden in the age of Kali. Ashwamedh yajna, horse sacrifice, Gavalabdha, cow sacrifice. Ashwamedham, Gavalabdham, sannyasa, accepting sannyas, ekadanda sannyas. Palapotrikam, offering meat in Shraddha ceremony of the departed. Palapotrikam and Devarena Sutta, procreation through the Deva and Devarena, Kalopanchavikajaya. These 5 things are forbidden in the age of God. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava. But in other ages, these activities were authorized. So Satyavati requested Vishnu. But Vishnu. So finally, Vyasdev was called by his mother. Satyavati had another son through Parashara, and that is Vyasdev. So Vyasdev was requested to procreate in the home of the king. Wives of this religion. And through Vyasdev, 2 sons were born, and they are Dhritarashtra and Pandava. So we can see what a wonderful character Bhishmadev had. He had such incredible sense of morality, dharma, such staunch adherence to the principles. And it is because of that Bhishmadev continued to side with Duryodhana. Although he saw that Duryodhana was such an offender to Krishna, although he knew that Krishna is supreme personality. But from another point of view, this was a disqualification of Vishnu. Like here we can properly understand what is the meaning of Sarva Dharma Parityaja. Bhishmadev was actually holding on to Dharma. But that Dharma was just the external consideration of Dharma. The inner spirit of Dharma, real Dharma, is actually to surrender to Krishna, accept the authority of Krishna, be surrendered to Krishna. That is the real consideration of Dharma. So here we can see that, of course, ultimately it's all Krishna's divine arrangement. Krishna through his devotees taught all his lessons. That's why Krishna made Indra behave in a certain way. That's why we can see Brahma behaved in a certain way. But ultimately, it was all due to teach the right principle. The right standard of devotion. Indra wanted to flood and destroy everything, everybody. That was Indra's agenda. Brahma stole the cows and the cow had poisoned Krishna. So similarly, we can see that Bhishmadev also was made to play a certain role in order to teach us something. And what was that? And that is, what was the lesson that Krishna wanted to teach us? That no matter how exalted a personality you are, no matter how attached you are, how strictly you are following the principles of Dharma, but the ultimate consideration is to side with me and surrender unto me. Sarva Dharma Parityaja. That is the ultimate consideration. Like, better would have been, like Bhishma, if Bhishma left Duryodhana and his followers and went against the king and joined Krishna, that would have been the perfect understanding. That would have been an act of pure devotion. In pure devotion, no other consideration comes into it. Jnana Bhagavata Anamrita. But Bhishma was too attached to Jnana. At the beginning, Bhishma was Jnana Mishra. When Bhishma was acting in that way, he was a Jnana Mishra. But before his Mahapayana, before his departure from this planet, he became free from the influence of Jnana. And he became a pure devotee. So we have to understand, as Rupa Goswami is pointing out, that Jnana, Karma, Anamritam is the standard of pure devotion. Not Karma Mishra Bhakta or Jnana Mishra Bhakta, no matter how exalted they may appear to be. That is not the standard. But of course, our business is to see things in a favorable light. Our position is not to criticize Bhishma. Although we understand, but as I say, that we have to see things in the light of Krishna, Krishna's divine arrangement. Like Bhishma acted in this way because Krishna wanted him to act in that. It was his pastime. And Bhishma was playing in Krishna's pastime. Bhishma was playing his role in Krishna's pastime. And Bhishma is lamenting, I shoot the arrows at him. Not that he shoot the arrows deliberately at him, but while he was shooting the arrows, many of the arrows actually pierced Krishna's body because Krishna was a chariot. Actually, Krishna, during the battle of Kurukshetra, although Krishna was not fighting himself, but his whole body was pierced with arrows. There is a temple in South India, near Madras, called Parthasarathi Temple. Temple of Parthasarathi. And in that temple there is a deity of Krishna. It is said that Krishna actually, after the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna came here and stayed there. And that deity, the entire body of the deity is marked with, the surface is not smooth, the surface is uneven, pierced. Like it shows, like when Krishna came there after the battle of Kurukshetra, his whole body was pierced with arrows. So it's a tough job, even to be a charioteer. You have to take the flags, you have to take the arrows. You can't avoid it. And he is describing, the next verse will describe how beautiful Krishna looked. When he picked up the head, he jumped out of the chariot, although he took a vow that he would not fight. He would not take up any weapon in this battle of Kurukshetra. But when Bhishma was fighting against Arjuna in such a valiant way, and Arjuna was in difficulty. Arjuna was in difficulty due to the onslaughts of Bhishma. So at that time Krishna just couldn't bear that. What did he do? He just jumped out of the chariot. He picked up the wheel of a broken chariot and he charged towards Bhishma. And at that time it has been described beautifully. Krishna's hair was flowing. Krishna looked just like a lion. His hair was flowing and his hair took the color of the dust. The yellowish reddish dust of the battlefield. And with the thing in his, with the will in his hand, Krishna was charging through Krishna. And fixing his mind at that sight, Krishna actually left his body. And at that time, Bhishma just dropped his weight. Okay, my Lord, kill me. So that is why, from that angle, Bhishma Dev is Lasha. Maravi Apu, I'm the servant, I'm the eternal servant. You are my eternal Lord and Master, do whatever you want to do. So, it's a beautiful example that Bhishma Dev cited. Many had all along, Bhishma Dev was always supporting Krishna, always was in favor of Krishna. If somebody criticized Krishna, Bhishma Dev stopped. When Shishupal was criticizing Krishna, he said that this person is a debauchee. He had affairs with others' wives. Do not have any sense of morality. That person is being worshipped. At that time, Bhishma Dev stood up. And he said that the whole world knows me. I am known all over the world for my vow of celibacy. The whole world knows me as a celibate. And I worship Krishna, whom you are calling a devotee. I worship him, being a renowned celibate. Why? Because Krishna is the crest jewel of all celibates. Krishna is the celibate. And Krishna is such a celibate that just by hearing Krishna's activities, everyone becomes celibate. That's what Prabhupada mentioned. That although apparently it may seem like Krishna has 16,000 wives, Krishna had affairs with all the gopis in Vrindavan, and they were apparently immoral activities because they were married to, many of them were married to others. But still Krishna is the celibate. And not only Krishna is celibate. When one hears about Krishna, one becomes celibate. So this way we understand that the spiritual world, it's in a different dimension altogether. And the spiritual relationships cannot be understood from a material point of view. It's not at all physical. There's nothing physical about the relationships in the spiritual sky. It's all spiritual. So, in this way, Bhishma Dev came to Krishna's defense against Shishupal's blasphemy. That this personality is worshipable even by me. If Krishna was a devotee, then why should I, a celibate, worship him? Srila Prabhupada also made that point. If there is anything immoral in Krishna's dealings with the gopis in Vrindavan, then why Sukadeva Goswami, who is a lifelong brahmachari, who right after his birth walked away, he is so detached. He was born and he walked away from home. So no attachment whatsoever to material nature. So why Sukadeva Goswami is narrating Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan? principle you must understand that there is nothing immoral, nothing immoral and indecent in Krishna's activity with corporate girls. And in our day-to-day life also we see that so many women become attracted to Krishna. So many married women become attracted to Krishna. Do their husbands mind when they become attracted to Krishna? No. Because Krishna is the Godhead, and developing one's relationship with Krishna is the ultimate goal of life. So, only through the examples of exalted personalities like Bhishma Dev that we understand Krishna's real position as the Supreme Personality of God. And Bhishma Dev was waiting in the bed of hands for so many days. And then finally when Krishna came, with Krishna fixing his mind, fixing his eyes on Krishna's lotus face, and indeed that was perfection. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Does anybody have any question? Yes.
However, you should say Krishna's viewpoint. Not accept Krishna, but I can say Krishna's viewpoint. So, all this stage, we have to learn to say everything to the spiritual master's viewpoint in our life, how we should be managed. But sometimes it is very bewildering as to what is pleasing to the spiritual master and what is not pleasing. So, how do we ascertain in every situation what exactly is pleasing to the spiritual master?
Well, the spiritual master will tell you. And if the spiritual master instructs, and of course in ISKCON we have to understand that the original spiritual master actually is Srila Prabhupada. In the context of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada is everyone's spiritual master. And every activity, all the services are actually based on Srila Prabhupada's plan, Prabhupada's arrangement. And the present spiritual masters are tuned into Srila Prabhupada's mission. You see, they won't say anything separate from Srila Prabhupada. And they will not engage their disciples in any activity separate from Srila Prabhupada's agenda. They won't have that separate agenda. They are simply tuned into Srila Prabhupada's agenda. And they engage them accordingly. So the first consideration is that the ultimate instruction or the ultimate engagement is in Srila Prabhupada's mission. And the details may differ. But the principle is there. And the details like how one is going to be engaged. And that the spiritual master will tell you. And not only the spiritual master, the initiating spiritual master. The temple authorities are also spiritual masters. Senior devotees, and so it's not that a disciple or a devotee has to be all the time instructed by the initiating spiritual master. In other conditions that may have been the case, but that's not the case. Rather, the emphasis is more on the temple structure, on the structure of the society. And the engagement will come from that line of authority. Generally in ISKCON, the spiritual masters do not interfere. It's left up to the temple president how the devotees will be engaged. And well, sometimes when the spiritual master is present, then he can engage. Like for example, my situation here. Like yes, I do get involved in local affairs, but here I am playing the role of a spiritual master. Here I am playing the role of more of a leader of a project. But say if I go to some other place, here I do get involved in decisions, how the devotees will be engaged. But in other places, I don't do that. Say when I go to Bombay, even if my disciples, I don't interfere into what will be their service. It's left up to the temple authority, how they will be engaged. And I don't interfere. If the disciples come, I tell them, go to the temple president, are you coming to me? Only when the temple president wants my help, then I give spiritual advice, spiritual guidance, but not practical involvement of the service. And like as I was saying, like if the spiritual master is present, in this context I will say, don't see that only the initiating spiritual master is a spiritual master. Try to recognize that there are many spiritual masters, initiating spiritual masters. Maybe one of the most important spiritual masters in that context, but the temple presidents and other senior devotees, GBC, they have to be seen as spiritual masters. Because we are seeing that if we stick to that concept that only initiating spiritual master is the spiritual master and no one else, then we cause a great harm to the institution of ISKCON. It did, and if we continue with this understanding, it will continue to cause a lot of damage to the movement. So we have to recognize that the senior devotees, temple authorities, they are also spiritual. And we should be concerned how to please them. And if they are not pleased, they'll come down on the other thunderbolt. Then you know whether they're pleased or not. Right? Okay. Answers your question?
I was not just asking the context of services, but behavior and attitude of how we deal with other sexual groups who come properly active devotion service. Like as we said, under the place are local authorities, but even within that, how to act in different circumstances. Sometimes
maintain humbleness, be obedient, be enthusiastic, be willing to serve, and stop being an overseer. Like don't do anything that will be harmful to the propagation of Krishna. So that is the meaning of serious. We become serious. Serious means no more nonsense. And no more nonsense means no more personal agenda. No more personal agenda means no more self-gratification. And when you serve like that, then what happens? When you serve, everyone around us becomes pleased. And when you see that everyone around us is pleased with us, then our heart automatically becomes filled with joy. And that means when everyone is pleased, Krishna in our heart becomes happy. And as a result of that, the heart becomes full of joy. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is very, very practical. There is nothing artificial. You don't have to practice it properly. Take it. Okay, on the glories of Srila Prabhupada, Charu Swami Maharaj.